Last night, we were all hit by the story of Hamilton being excluded from the results of Friday's qualifying round. Lewis Hamilton is referred to as one of the best racers to be behind the wheel of a Formula One car. After his major debut in 2007, this is his 15th season of racing. Looking back at all those 14 seasons, he has managed to win the Drivers' Championship 7 times. That means his success rate is almost 50% out of it. And in terms of race wins, he's the only driver ever to mark the 100 Grand Prix mark. Hamilton's racing status can now be seen as equal to that of Michael Schumacher. Now, the only problem standing between Lewis and the title of becoming the most successful F1 driver is, yes, Red Bull's Max Verstappen. Currently, watching Hamilton's career, the only threat to him is Verstappen. They have been battling not only on track, but outside too. Everything was normal for Verstappen a few years back. Verstappen received widespread appraisals from everyone around the world as a successful racer. His racing career was booming until Hamilton came in. People thought Max was one of those guys who instantly rose to fame and was never heard from again. Many F1 enthusiasts believe that the real trouble lies in his driving attitude. Max was mainly seen as an aggressive driver, but the car wasn't good enough for him. He crashed most of the time that F1 fans gave him the name, Crashtappen, for his successive poor performance sites. That's history. Let's look at what happened yesterday. On Friday evening, a fan tape appeared of Verstappen brushing the rear wing and DRS assembly of Hamilton's car while it was in part firme after the qualifying round. The DRS refers to a flap in the rear wing, which opens to reduce the car's drag on the straights and aid overtaking. Many hours later, and once the stewards had suspended their hearing, a warrant was handed out to Verstappen and his Red Bull team, illustrating a likely violation of Article 2.5.1 of the FIA International Sporting Code. The so-called article out of the International Sporting Code states that inside the parc fermé only the concerned officials are allowed to enter, and no procedure, checking, tuning, or repair is permitted unless allowed by the related officials or by the adequate regulations. That was just the beginning. Hamilton had set the shortest time in qualifying for Saturday's sprint race, but during a post-qualifying examination, the performance of the DRS on his rear wing did not satisfy the prerequisites set under the regulations. The finding was that his rear wing flap opened too far, beyond the permitted 85mm within the technical regulations. Although the primary purpose of the DRS is to improve racing, the DRS can be utilized voluntarily in certain zones during qualifying sessions to increase the top speed of the car. Now you might get some clicks, right? Violations of technical restrictions have stemmed on numerous disqualifications from the results in the past, which in this case could see Hamilton being compelled to start Saturday's sprint race from the pit lane. Hamilton's disqualification would have enormous unwelcomed consequences on the championship. Hamilton tracks Verstappen by 19 points with 4 races to go and currently confronts a 5-place grid penalty for Sunday's game after Mercedes changed their engine for a 5th time this season. As only 3 engine changes are allowed under the rules, if the wing is found to be in breaking the laws, Hamilton would have to face the double whammy of beginning from the pit lane for Saturday's 24-lap race at Interlagos and then having a 5-place penalty added to his finishing position in the race to deduce his grid position on Sunday. It would be an awful dent in his bid to secure a record-breaking 8th title. If Verstappen were to win the sprint race, the Grand Prix, and score the bonus point for the quickest lap, he would leave Sao Paulo with an extra 29 points on his record. Seems like Verstappen is having something on his mind. The rear wing of Hamilton's car was withdrawn by Mercedes under the oversight of FIA technical delegate Joe Bauer on Saturday evening and will be confiscated by the FIA until the scrutiny is completed. Joe Bauer claimed that Hamilton's drag reduction system on the back of Hamilton's Mercedes was performing at a bigger gap than what is authorized, enabling him to achieve a greater top speed. All this might mean that both the title contenders could face penalties. Verstappen has been fined €50,000 for his infringement but evaded without a grid penalty. Before, Hamilton had seemed in an attempt to restore his fading hopes of beating Verstappen to the title after qualifying 0.438 seconds earlier than his rival. Hamilton has been laughed at by Verstappen's traveling army at several race venues this year. Still, in Sao Paulo, Brazil's largest city, the British driver is an F1's fans' most favorite. His pole lap was welcomed with a deafening cheer. and popularity was upheld too by his selection of helmet design, a one-off nod to his childhood idol, the Brazilian triple world champion Ayrton Senna, who is glorified in the F1 world. Anyways, let's see what's about to come out of this mess. Not so favorable for Lewis. We'll be discussing further happenings in the coming episodes.